Good evening, folks, and thank you all for joining us for another Monday Mayhem. In the studio tonight with me is Robbie Jed Rains. Robbie, how the hell are you, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I understand you've got a little bit of good news coming around for everybody.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I guess they might like it. I started book 6 today.
You want to fill them in on the progress for the book 5?
Uh, yep. Book 5 is for those of you who wasn't here on Saturday night. Book 5 is in edits with my lovely editor over here to my uh this way, which would be left to me this way, but that way, which would be right the way it looks like I'm leaning my head. But
I ain't exactly a fan of white, man.
my lovely editor over here, but uh, got the cover is. I'd say that's 100% done. You saw it, Da. What do you think?
That's pretty good looking cover.
I don't think there's anything else needs to be added to it. I think that's as Buford T. Justice says, that's an attention grabber. So I think y'all gonna like the cover. Lucas said, she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I love it." She goes, "Good, because you really challenged me on this one." But she said, "This is my favorite one I've done for you." So I think it's really nice, Clark. Really nice.
I think folks are going to like it.
So all we're waiting on is for layouts and edits to be finished, and hopefully, maybe this week or next, DA? Somewhere around there.
Keep your fingers crossed. I may not be able to get much done on it tomorrow because I go in at 9 in the morning for shots in my spine, 10 of them. And the last time it was only 2, and it pretty much wore me out. And so I'm getting a whole bunch of injections all at once. And I'm probably going to be out of it for a day or two. So we'll see whether or not we have a show on Wednesday night. I'll see how I feel on Wednesday.
Well, it is what it is. You get it done when you get it done. That's all. It's done. It's there whenever you're ready. I mean, honestly, book 4's only been out a week, so
something like that. Yeah, so I'll try to get it done for you as fast as I can, brother. But no promises. I will probably be pretty well out of it, at least all day Tuesday. More than likely into Wednesday. We'll see how I feel. Hopefully, they're saying I should feel relief immediately. Just recovering from it is going to be the process. So keep my fingers crossed. It's going to reduce my pain level quite a bit. But I also got an appointment to see my neurosurgeon today. October 7th, I go to see my neurosurgeon again. And I guess we're going to see what we see. Things have changed in a few years. I know my back has gotten worse, but we'll see what the neurosurgeon says. And he's the best in the area. I mean, he's the guy they fly to like Chicago and stuff to do spinal surgeries. Very, very talented doctor, and I'm confident that not only am I in good hands, but he's also not gonna bullshit me. That's one thing I like about my general practitioner. I went to junior high junior high on through high school with him, so I've known John Castor for 40 years. So he doesn't sugarcoat things because he knows that's the kind of person I am. I'd rather hear blunt bad news than sugar-coated try to gloss it over. Just tell me.
Yep.
So keep y'all's fingers crossed for me. If you're the praying type, say a prayer for me tonight because tomorrow morning's going to be pretty rough. But hopefully it'll have me back at least to abnormal. I mean, it gets the pain level under control, and that's really all we're hoping for. It's not going to fix anything. It's just going to hopefully subside some of the inflammation and some of the nerve pain that I'm feeling in my back and legs. Dash 2257 says, I broke my ankle a long time ago and walked on it for a day. The military doctor couldn't believe I walked on it for a day and said I must have had a high tolerance of pain. I walked on a stress fracture of my left leg in the Army for almost a week before I went to sit call. I'm like, I've got to finish the PT because we had PT tests that week. So I got to finish, for PT tests. And when I finally went to sit call, they're like, you're not running PT tests. This leg's broken.
Well, think about Steve walked around for what, 2.5
hours. Oh, and then went to work on it for about a week before he got tired of it. So I got to figure out what's wrong with this. It's not getting better. Thank you all. Appreciate the prayers. Well, where did we start last week? Do you remember? Because I know I'm going to do the recap.
I think we stopped just after they got to the village, and Reagan's wife had said no, he can't stay, and then his little girl said, "Mommy, that's the man in the dream that saved me from the wolf." I think that's where we stopped. I don't think we got much further than that.
Didn't we start with the fight last time? That would have been before they got to the village.
You talking about the bandits?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we started. Or either there or right before there.
Okay, so we were past this part. I was going to teach him some phrases in Gaelic. Past East Gate. I guess I'm just going to have to pick a spot because I cannot for the life of me remember exactly where we...
Don says we started just before the fight. I think it was either right at the fight or just before it. And he says it was just before, then that sounds like a good place to start.
Nowhere past that. Okay. I'm going to start at the top of page 28, and that'll just kind of take it through. Gideon had just asked, what do they call you other than Reagan? Reagan says, we Celts didn't share your Roman traditions, replied Reagan. If you need to ask for me, you can call me Reagan, son of Brennan, or they also call me Reagan of the Grey Mist. Says, why the hell would they call you that? Asked Gideon. That's a strange thing to call someone. That's because I can fade into the forest like a mist in the dawn, replied Reagan. I'm a hunter. Fair enough, replied Gideon. Reagan began looking around and placed his hand on his sword. Gideon followed suit, but didn't sense anything out of place. As he started to ask what was going on, Reagan held up his hand to silence him. Then Gideon realized it wasn't what he was hearing. It's what he wasn't that bothered him. The woods had gone silent. In an instant, Reagan shoved Gideon off his horse and dove out of the saddle, rolling into the grass beside the road. Gideon hit the ground and rolled as the whistling of arrows filled the air. None of them struck the horses and thudded into the ground around them. Clearly, whoever attacked them was interested in their horses and gear, not in trade. Bandits! Shouted Gideon. Aye, arsehole, snapped Reagan. Were you expecting a bloody parade? Gideon rolled into the ditch and drew his sword. Reagan slipped into the tall grass and vanished from sight. Well, that figures, muttered Gideon, looking around as 4 bandits armed with bows stepped out from the woods ahead of them. He had thought they could engage them, but Reagan was nowhere to be seen. Toss out your weapons and your coin, called one of the bandits. There's no need for you to die or what you can replace. Gideon readied his sword, but said nothing. He was looking for an opening, but all 4 of their men held the bows at the ready with an arrow nocked. Are you planning on dying for a couple of horses? Called another one. Someone is, snapped Gideon. Oh, a tough one, chided a third bandit. We'll see who's dying today, arsehole. Gideon moved low and slow, keeping the horses between himself and the bandits. He was trying to get close enough to strike before they could get off an arrow. Where did they go? Asked the first bandit. Shut it, Cullen, snapped another one. Spread out and find them. As the bandits began to separate, one at the rear of the group suddenly grunted in pain. The others turned to watch him fall with a dirk protruding from his neck. "Bloody hell!" shouted the one named Cullen. Before he could locate the source of the dagger, Gideon stepped out of the ditch and slashed him with the sword, cutting him from his left shoulder to his right hip. Bone and muscle appeared in the open wound as blood began to flow. Cullen dropped to the ground, his arms flailing to try and reach the wound. "Kill him!" shouted another bandit. Gideon spun and threw his sword. It flipped end over end before embedding in the bandit's chest and sinking almost halfway down the blade. The bandit fell to his knees with an odd look on his face as if in disbelief as he stared at the weapon sticking out of his chest. Gideon snatched up Cullen's sword and started for the last bandit, who turned to run away. Regan appeared as if by magic, stepping out of the brush as if he'd been there all day. Before Gideon could pursue, Regan slashed out savagely and nearly decapitated the last of the bandits. "You fight well," said Regan. "For a Roman, that is." "Funny," said Gideon. "I was going to say the same thing about you." "Aye, but I ain't a Roman," replied Regan, chuckling. "No, but you are a smart-ass," replied Gideon. "Dolorasane." Regan laughed heartily as he quickly searched the bodies, taking coin purses, weapons, and anything else of value, before tossing Gideon a bow and 2 quivers of arrows. Then he recovered his horse and climbed back onto the crude saddle. Gideon whistled for his horse, and it trotted back to him without hesitation. "That's a nice trick, Roman," said Regan. "Can you teach me daughter to do that?" "If she's as stubborn as you are," replied Regan, replied Gideon, "then I seriously doubt it." "Well, she takes after her dear mother," replied Regan, "and she's the strongest-willed woman I've ever known." "The mother or the daughter?" asked Gideon, climbing back into his saddle. "Take your pick," replied Regan. "Like mother, like daughter." "Oh, this is going to be an interesting trip," muttered Gideon. "Damned Celts." "Oh, there's one thing you should know," added Regan. "What's that?" asked Gideon, dreading the answer. "Did I forget to mention my wife's the oracle you're a-seeking?" Regan asked, laughing. "Oh, I think you forgot to mention that part," Gideon said, shaking his head. "There's an old Celtic saying," said Regan. "You should accept the difficult, as complaining about it does you no good." "We have a similar saying amongst the legion," replied Gideon. "We say durate et vos met rebus servate secundus." "I don't speak your Latin," Regan answered. "It means endure and save yourself for better things," said Gideon. "We also say virtus in arduis, courage in adversity." "I like that one better," said Regan, grinning. "You shouldn't," replied Gideon, shaking his head. "There was one soldier who kept saying it, so I made him do calisthenics every time he said it." "Did it stop him?" asked Regan. "No, the bastard showed up to formation with it painted on his shield," answered Gideon. "I transferred him to Germania, let him become someone else's problem." "What was his name?" asked Regan. "Sounds like my kind of fella." "Flavius Margolis," replied Gideon with a shrug. "You'd like him. Reminds me of you." "We should get a moving," said Regan. "We're burning daylight." Then they spurred their horses and headed off at a rapid pace. The woods around them still felt dark and foreboding, but nothing seemed to be out of place. Gideon kept his spear in hand as they rode, looking for anything that might be a threat. Regan kept a bow at the ready, eyes moving constantly for any sign of danger. A few hours passed in silence, and Gideon noticed that just ahead there was a plank of wood driven into the ground, with the skull of a stag lashed to the top of it. It was also painted with red ochres and blue pigments in strange patterns. "What's that?" asked Gideon, pointing with the spear. "That's the boundary of my people," said Regan. "Beyond that, we're safe. Brigands won't enter, or they'll be hunted down and killed." "Good to know," answered Gideon. "Also, from here on out," added Regan, "let me do the talking to any we meet on the road. Most of me people don't take kindly to Romans." "Well, then why do you trade with us?" asked Gideon. "Well, not to be put into much to it," replied Regan. "We may not like you Romans, but we do know that if we do not get along with you, we'll be put to the sword like the Brigantes and the Picts." "I wish more of your people thought that way," said Gideon. "Believe it or not, I'd prefer not to have to keep fighting them." "Well, Roman," replied Regan, "I think you'll find that you'll have to kill every Pict drawing breath before they'll surrender. The Brigantes are just as bad." "I was afraid you were going to say that," said Gideon sullenly. "In my experience with the Legion, that's exactly what they'll get." "You say that now, Roman," replied Regan, "but there ain't enough Romans in Britannia to take all of Caledonia. Mark me words." Gideon said nothing, but Regan's words hung in the air like a fog. Gideon wanted to curse the Celtic stubbornness, but then something occurred to him. Well, I don't think I'd have reacted any differently if the Picts had invaded Rome, Gideon thought. They rode in silence until the sun was beginning to set low in the sky. They hadn't seen anyone else on the road, but Gideon had heard several strange whistling calls from deep in the woods and watched as Regan put his hands to his mouth and answered them. Gideon felt ill at ease, knowing that they were surrounded by the Dalriada. Whatever was going to happen next, Gideon knew he was powerless to stop it. Just as the sun was sinking below the horizon, they entered a small village. It was composed of about a dozen huts made of sod, straw, and clay, with sodden grass covering the roof and thin smoke curling up from the crude chimneys. "Regan!" shouted a woman with flowing red curly hair. Gideon was impressed with how beautiful she was. Behind her, a young girl of about 6 years old emerged from the hut and ran after her mother. There was no doubt that this was Regan's family. When he swept the woman up in his arms and onto the horse, kissing her deeply. Gideon smiled to see the little girl was the spitting image of her mother. Once they separated, Regan gently set her on the ground and started to introduce Gideon. Before he could speak, his wife frowned and glared at Gideon. "Why did you bring a Roman here?" she asked, "especially this Roman." "He seeks your counsel," replied Regan. "And what do you mean, this Roman?" "He bears the curse of the Christ upon him," she answered. "I can see it in his een." "How do you know that?" asked Gideon. "I thought your people weren't Christian." "We do not worship your strange gods," added the woman, "but I can sense your curse upon you. I can hear the strange words in me head. Soldier, content with what ye are. In what ye are, ye shall remain till my return." Gideon just stared at her in surprise. No living person other than himself bore witness to that moment. No one knew the story because he never told it to anyone. "I see you are truly an oracle," said Gideon. "Why do you come to our home?" she asked bluntly. "I need your help," answered Gideon. "Our people are being attacked by strange wolf creatures that walk like men." "Rhiannon, please," says Regan. "He comes a seeking our aid. We cannot turn him away." "We can and we should," said Rhiannon angrily. "Mama," said the little girl. "Aye, Skyla," said Rhiannon, her tone softening. "This is the man I dreamed about," said Skyla. "He saved me from the wolf." "I've never met her before," said Gideon. "Skyla has the sight like her mother," replied Regan. "We've learned to believe her dreams." Rhiannon stared at her daughter for a long moment before turning back to Regan. "Get the horses put away and clean yourselves up," she said. Supper will be ready soon." "And the Roman?" she asked Regan. "Can stay," answered Rhiannon. "For now." Okay, let me check this. I didn't share the screen before, so I probably ought to do that now.
That's kind of been the way you've been doing it anyway. You start reading and don't share the screen till we get ready to start writing.
Alrighty then. Well, this is an interesting story we're all crafting together. What do you guys think so far? How do you guys think? And what should we do? What should we do next?
Curtis loves it. Angela loves it. Arlen loves it. Toshi says pretty epic so far.
Well, awesome. I'm glad everybody's enjoying it.
Yep, Lisa says she loves it. Stray Wolf's enjoying it. Or I think I already read him. Marley said she's loving it.
Okay, so how should we start out this chapter? Everybody got their thinking caps on. How should we start out with this chapter? And maybe have the dogman attack the village so we can save the little girl. That'll be ultimately how this chapter ends. But what should we start with? I can see some of the comments as they pop up on the live stream page, but I can't have Facebook YouTube up on the other screen because of the writing.
Curtis says more from the wife. Mr. Anderson says, I got ideas if you use a prophecy vision. Stray Wolf says they should start with a meal. Kevin says the oracle needs to say what she sees. Forrest Anderson says have them having dinner talking about the wolves. Judy McKee says the meal. Julie Welchek says she agrees that the oracle needs to say what she's seeing. Stray Wolf says with a meal, characters can start to build the trust with each other. Roxanne says telling them an attack they had with the dog man.
I need to double check the date. I think I changed the date from the last chapter. So if we're going to start with dinner, then we'll have to go change the date back. Yeah, I changed the date.
Toshi says, I say they have, I think he means meal, but he says, say they have a mean, but have a meal. The mother tells Gideon about the wolves, or about what the wolves are, and what can be used to stop the wolves from attacking. Another Barry says he agrees with the meal. Yeah, Toshi said he meant meal. Yes, Curtis, his wife is the oracle that he was seeking. So I think pretty much it's unanimous that people agree that they should be having the meal. It's just what's going on in the meal. But some people are saying having them just have a conversation. Some people are saying she should be telling what she's seeing. Some people said they should talk about the attacks. So
okay, let me look something up real quick before we get started.
Cole says maybe have them give the oracle a gift that would then lead into the meal.
Okay, it sounds like we're pretty much in agreement. They want to talk about the vision process.
Everybody's hungry.
Everybody's hungry. They want to eat and get down to the oracle. Okay. Well, here's a question for you. What would have been an authentic meal from that time?
I have no idea. I know what would be an authentic meal from the 18th century of Scotland, but bread, oatcakes, and broth.
Let me do some Googling.
Consult the Googles. Kay Bauer says bangers and mash. Haggis. Maybe they would have had haggis at that point.
I don't know when haggis was first developed or first discovered. A typical Scottish meal in 108 AD likely consisted of simple seasonal foods such as porridge, oatcakes, and stews made from grains such as oats, supplemented with hunted game and freshwater fish from rivers and streams. Meat was less common for the general population, who relied more on dairy, while the wealthy might have had more variety and access to hunted game like red deer. Staple foods were oats, wild grains and beans, and dairy products. Seasonal wild seasonal wild foods would be game and fish, or seasonably grown vegetables. And most meals were, obviously cooked over an open fire. Pottage and stews, thick soups and stews known as pottage, were common dishes that were provided a warm and filling meal. Haggis precursors, while haggis as we know it today developed later, ancient food preparation techniques involved using animal stomachs to contain meat and other ingredients for storage and consumption, a practice that eventually led to the creation of the dish haggis.
I'm shocked that oatcakes were around back
Oatcakes have been around for a long time.
Must have been, because They were still using them. And they,
Dorothy Wade says Popeye's chicken. Yeah, they just pop down to the local Popeyes for a big box of spicy chicken. Ooh, spicy chicken sounds pretty good. I like the Justin says rabbit stew. I like that. It'd be something simple. Like a rabbit pottage or a rabbit stew.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, they probably would have done some of the same stuff like they did in Howl the Night Wolf, because they carried those oat cakes around and bread, and then they would have.
Well, the Highlanders for
broth.
almost for as long as history has been recorded have talked about making these little oat cakes that they would put in their sporin, and one cake a day would keep them going because they were made so dense with other things in them. It was almost like a Scottish version of pemmican. It had everything from berries and nuts to even dried meat in it.
Yeah, well, I mean that's some of the research that I did. They would like I said, they kept the oat cakes like you were just talking about, and bread, and then they would, however they carried it around. I would assume in skins and maybe some bottles and or not bottles, but canisters of some type, and they would carry broth around, and they would just warm that up when they'd camp at midday or at night, and probably whatever they hunted during the day they would throw into that too.
Rabbit, occasional bird. I mean, maybe a goose if they were lucky.
Stag, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you also got to bear in mind that while we've got an abundant whitetail population here in the United States, how small England is and how quickly they get overhunted.
Oh yeah. But it was probably more plentiful back then than it is.
Oh yeah.
Now.
Yeah, the population wouldn't be near as high, but still, even limited hunting would have a tremendous effect on the local deer populations. But then again, this was also before the monarchies, so there really wasn't. They were tribes. There really weren't small kingdoms or lairds, so there was no one to tell them they couldn't hunt.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably something simple. Probably something like rabbit stew and oat cakes. So yeah, we'll go with that. There we go. Lone Queen says Gideon bringing in wild game would probably help with his standing with the village. That's a great idea. Milkman says I think they'd probably have a lot of dried or cured meats. What did I say the position of the sun was when they got?
I don't remember.
Till the sun was beginning to set low in the sky. Okay, so I didn't say it's dark yet. Okay. Let me get a quick drink. Jerry says writing looks hard. It can be. There are times when writing is a lot of work, and then and Robbie can tell you this too. There are times when you just sit down and words just pour out. And then there are other times when that faucet's stuck, and then you get writer's block.
Well, you said writer's blocks when your characters don't refuse to talk to you.
Yeah, when your imaginary friends refuse to talk to you anymore. Here. What did I say the little girl's name was? Skyla.
Skylar.
Ling? Trying to think of the word. I want to use a word for cheap, but I can't think that. I can't imagine that they would say the actual word cheap.
No, I probably wouldn't.
Um,
You spelled full rabbits as FOR instead of FOUR.
oh, yeah, nice catch. Make sure that's the right word. My memory for old out of use
Verbiage.
yeah, verbiage is sometimes off. Yeah, it actually derives from the word frippery, was an obsolete place where cast-off clothes were sold to finery or showy garments. So yeah, frippery, something for a primitive village, silk ribbon would be an expensive, pretty much ostentatious gift. I mean, that's pretty impressive, well, especially in a place where they couldn't make something like that. Well, silk was not native to England. That's what I did wrong. I left the N out.
Is that supposed to be hours in hours or hours in?
Yeah. Nice catch. Oh. Man, if I could type. Good Lord. You think this is my first time using a dang typewriter? Good Lord. Well, keyboard. I ain't used a typewriter in decades. Jerry Carter says this is an old Earth history story or a parallel world. Consider it historical fiction because it fits into the rest of the verse.
Well, you might want to explain that more because he just made a comment earlier, said he didn't even know you wrote books. So
really, I write a lot of fiction, a lot of cryptid fiction. I think what makes mine stand out, and Robbie's now, but there's not a lot of people who write cryptid fiction actually go out and look for cryptids. I've been investigating cryptids since I was a kid. Robbie and I have gone out into the deep woods quite a few times together. I've gone way more times without him than I have with him, obviously, because I've only known Robbie for a few years. But me, Robbie, and Doc have gone out. Me and Noah have gone out. I've gone out with other people. Wyatt, I went out with Wyatt. Robbie was there for that expedition when we went on Combs. I took the boats out to Combs Ferry. But yeah, I use the real world experience I've had and stories I've collected to create the behaviors of the creatures in the books. So while the stories are fiction, they are based on real research. And I've got 36 books in print, get ready to be 37. Robbie's about to drop his 5th one.
Yeah, you're working on editing number 5, and I'm writing number 6 now.
So hopefully you'll check them out. You can find all of our books on Amazon. They're all available in Kindle, print, and in audio format. Or you can go to my website, which is daroberts.net. Thank you, Judy. She says my zombie series is better than The Walking Dead by a mile. I appreciate that.
Well, it is. BC Incorporated says cryptid fiction is his new obsession, thanks to us.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, same. Glad we could bring you into the fold.
Would they say rabbit or hare?
Honestly, probably would depend on if it was a rabbit or because that. I mean, that's technically two different. I mean, they're both.
Okay, so which is more common in England, rabbits or hares?
I think hares are, but I mean, they have rabbits, but in that area, it probably would have been a hare. Because I think hares are like bigger than regular rabbits, slightly.
Okay. Let me go back and swap all those out.
While you do that, let me consult the Googles.
I think you're right. I didn't think about it until just as I was starting to write that. You know what? I am going to do something else. Show you how to do this, Robbie. See what I'm doing? I hit Control F for find, okay? And since I already had that word selected, rabbit, it pops up rabbit in here, okay? You see where my cursor is?
Yeah.
And then you come over here to the down arrow, not the X. And you click down, you select replace. You replace rabbit with hare. And just hit replace all. And it makes all of those replacements for you instead of having to go back to find all of them.
I saw you doing that last time, and I meant to ask you, and I forgot.
Yeah, that's one of those little shortcuts that you can find on Windows. Not on Windows, on Word. You can do a global replace. Let's say, for example, one of the mistakes I made, and actually got pointed out to me, was in one book, for some reason, and I don't know why the computer didn't point it out, I kept writing Delkin instead of Declan. And I had to select the entire document and replace DELCAN with DECLAN. Don't know why I did it, and I don't know why the computer didn't underline it, but it actually got through in one book. So I have to go back and make sure that's fixed.
In 108 AD Scotland, hares would have been significantly more present or more common than rabbits. The mountain hare is the only native lagomorph, the order of rabbits, hares, and pikas in Scotland. So while there would have been both, and the brown hare was also present in Britain in 108 AD, having been introduced during or possibly before the Roman period. So you would have had the brown hare, the mountain hare, and regular rabbits. But
okay, well, I'm not going to go into details as to which species of rabbit it was or hare
right.
it was.
But you had two species of hare and one species of rabbit, so the hare would have been more common at that time. So we're good.
And that's another little thing that I will point out to y'all. This is again, we're sharing the writing experience. This is just one of those things. Every once in a while, you'll run into something. You'll have to stop and go back. And I do it whether it's a modern set book. Now in the Balkus series, the World of Algard, I could just make it up because it's my world. It's a made up world. So, but it still has to make logical sense. So I wanted to make things as realistic as possible. And while rabbit was technically correct, hares were far more common. So I think it would be best to use hare as opposed to rabbit, even though they probably could have had both. But I just think it gives it more of a veritas, a more of a truthful setting, and more of a realistic feeling. What do you think, Robbie?
I 100% agree. Because that's something that I learned from you is small details make a big difference. Because
Absolutely.
if you don't care about small details and you just throw whatever in there on the small details, and you can't be trusted on the small details, then people are not going to believe you when you bend the rules for the big stuff.
Exactly. And that applies to species of animals as much as it does to the common mistake that a lot of people, including Stephen King, have made when they flicked the safety off of a Glock. Anybody that knows there's no outside safety on the Glock other than the trigger. Well, anybody that's spent any time around firearms knows that, but it just tips your hat to let people know you really don't know what you're talking about a certain subject, and that kind of ruins the illusion for a lot of people, especially when you're a very detail oriented person. So I try to make sure all of these details are as correct as I possibly can. Kay Bauer said, so Gideon can't go to Detroit in this story. Yeah, he's not going to show up in anywhere other than medieval Scotland. Actually, it's not even medieval. This is 108 AD, so it's well before the Middle Ages.
Yeah. Although we're pretty sure he was there in medieval Scotland and England.
Yeah.
Chris got a good point. How many Stephen King readers actually know what anything about sidearms?
Probably a good point.
But a lot of ours do, so that's why we.
Yeah, and if you're going to write a series like Codename Wild Hunt or Robbie's new series that he's about to introduce you guys to, where they've got a strong military background, you better know your stuff.
Yep.
Northwoods, I'm exactly the same way. I am super picky, and if I find out I got a detail wrong, I'm like, crap. But if you guys could see my Google search history, you'd know just how much stuff I look up on a day's writing. Jerry Carter says Roland the Gunslinger has an impossible revolver. Yeah, that's a great example.
Yep.
Hey, we're over 10,000 words already in this. Wow. That's pretty awesome. Where did we start? What page?
6.
Yeah. We started on page 32. No, 33. 34. God dang it. Page 34, and we're already on page 36. So we've written 2 full pages. That's pretty good so far. And we're only an hour in, so we should be able to get at least a couple more pages. Oops.
What was that?
That was ending the sentence too soon, and the justification stretched it out.
No.
Ow. Jerry Carter's book about the lost colony in Virginia, the Roanoke colony, getting taken out by Sasquatch would be cool. That would be a cool one to do.
That's what I was. Roanoke's actually North Carolina, though. The Outer Banks. Remember, we talked about
taking the Shadow Walker series up there to that though.
I've actually got plans for a book, and I don't know when I'm going to write it. It's in the pipeline. I've got a whole list of books that I'm working on. But this one's a wild hunt project for sometime probably in the next year or two. I call it the basic working title is Ghosts of Ticonderoga. During the Civil War, there was a big battle at Fort Ticonderoga, and I want to do a story about the first group of Rangers. Were they Rogers Rangers? Yeah, Rogers Rangers were basically the equivalent of special forces in those days. They they basically learned bushcraft from the natives, and they went out and fought like that. And it's going to be about Rogers Rangers encountering something deadly in the winter near what's left of Fort Ticonderoga.
Yeah, and we had talked about doing a wild hunt, or not a wild hunt, doing a Shadow Walker series for the Lost Colony of Roanoke. Because remember, I even put Croatoa in book 2.
Mm-hmm. So Robbie's got plans for Roanoke, and I've got plans for Fort Ticonderoga. So I think both of them will be pretty cool. I mean, it's going to be even more primitive than Codename Wild Hunt. Not Codename Wild Hunt. Dark Frontiers. You know, them hunting cryptids in 1865 with cap and ball revolvers. Back in Rogers Rangers days, it was tomahawks and flintlocks.
Yep.
You know how bad it would suck to go up against a superior force with tomahawks and flintlocks? Oh, that would be brutal.
Yeah, that would suck very much.
Jerry, for ease of understanding, I will just write that in modern standard English, simply because I don't speak Middle English, and I don't think anybody would be able to read it if I did.
Yeah, we had that conversation not too long ago about a couple chapters in my book that you're working on, didn't we?
Yeah.
Would he speak like this? Yeah, but nobody's going to understand it.
Okay, need to get back into this here. How did that happen? there were species of wolves in England at that time, right?
Yeah. I can't remember what year they disappeared. I know they had disappeared like I think a century before Howl the Night Wolf happened.
I'm
So
going to
they
consult
were
the Googles.
they were there during that time. But I don't know exactly what year they disappeared. It was just because I had to ask that very question about when did they disappear, or were they there at that time?
Somewhere around the year 1500.
Yep, that's about right. About a little over 100 years.
So the population of wolves would still be pretty high.
Yeah.
I can spell. Good Lord.
Once instead of one.
Good catch.
The Mahusive Wolf.
That should be part of that same paragraph. Toshi, that's a good question. As DA, I'm curious if Gideon was bitten by a werewolf, would the curse that's on him prevent the werewolf's curse or no?
I would say yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would. I don't think he could get a curse like that.
Because to say that a werewolf's curse would be more powerful than Jesus telling Gideon he's going to be there, that's kind of. I would say that was it the what's it actually called? Immortalis.
Curse at Immortus. Yeah.
Yes, I knew you said it in Dead of Winter, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was called. I would think that would, for lack of a better term, trump any other curses.
Yeah, especially considering where that curse came, the first curse came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would guess that Gideon probably couldn't be turned. Just like he can't really be killed.
Still a good question and an interesting topic or an interesting theory. Because I've always had the question, what if Bigfoot got bit by a werewolf? Would he just be a big fur ball?
a werefoot?
Yeah. He wouldn't be able to move because he'd be so hairy.
Don, do you mean my keyboard or your keyboard? Because if mine's making too much noise, I'm sorry, but I bought one that does the feedback like an old typewriter. I just find it soothing when I write. It reminds me of when I was a kid when I first started writing. So hopefully that one's not bothering you too much. Do you guys notice it very much? The clacking of my keyboard?
I do, but it don't bother me. I don't pay no attention.
Don says his. Okay. Yeah, Justin, I think you're right.
Yeah. Take that, you spawn of Satan. Northwood's on the board.
Uh-oh. I didn't catch it. What'd he say?
He said, so Gideon would even be protected from curses from things like my ex.
That's funny. He's protected from mayhem. He must have Allstate.
Yeah. You're protected from mayhem like me.
Let's see if it has fits with that. No, I don't mean as if. I mean as a figure appeared above him. Sometimes Windows and I argue.
Same. Mike, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I wanted this to say. Shut up. I'll ask you when I want your opinion.
Exactly. Sometimes I agree with it. Sometimes I'm just like, no, stop second guessing me. Shut up.
I literally have turned Windows spell check off because it aggravates the living daylights out of me when I'm trying to type. And then once I get to the point where I'm ready for that, then I'll turn it back on. But I can't stand seeing them little red and blue and other color things it puts up there.
Would that be right? Would be inte instead of into?
Yeah, that would be how. That would be how I would have wrote it in Howl the Night Wolf. Inte. Because like Wisna was not.
Well, then I'm going to add that to the list. K Bowers, absolutely. There's no time I think I've ever sent a text with the word ducking in it, but it's autocorrected it a lot of times. Oh. Sorry, my back's hurting. Yeah, twist a little bit. Oh. Sorry.
So you're just doing your Ferris Bueller's. Shake it, baby, now. Twist and shout.
Pretty much, yeah. What did I say his name was? Because I've been calling him Gideon in the dialogue.
Oh, God. Hold on. I had it on top of my head.
Was it Quintus?
Quintus. I started to say Crixus, but I was like, no, that's not it. It sounds like that, but that's not it.
I think Crixus is from Gladiator Blood and Sand. Or did you use Crixus for one of the others?
It was one of the others. It's the Primus Pilus.
Okay. I knew I had that name in my head for some reason.
Hold on, I need to look up something. Man, I cannot find what I'm looking for. Well, all right. Hey, we're almost at 10 o'clock. Maybe we ought to consider stopping there. That's a pretty powerful moment to stop it at.
Yep. Yeah, I was letting you get to a spot. I was going to say the same thing, but
Yeah, that's a great spot to stop it at.
yeah, and you're 11K.
Yeah, 11,324 words. So we've added 2,500 words tonight. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good writing session. Well, folks, what do you guys think of that?
It's okay, Angela. That's why I told you.
Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, Stray Wolf. Don, thanks, man. I'm really enjoying this. I think this is going to make a great book when it's done. I mean, we've got a ways to go, but the story's really taking shape.
Yeah. And I'm, just the tie-ins for both of us, for the entire universe, verse, whatever we decide to call it. Nightmare Hunter verse? Is that what we decide to call it?
Yeah, Nightmare Verse.
Nightmare verse.
I'm thinking about doing something different with this book. I know that it, everybody said they would like to see this one in print. And since we're all working on this together, yeah, I know I'm doing all the actual writing, but there's a lot of ideas coming into this that have come from all y'all. You guys have helped us come up with cool names. I don't want anybody to feel left out on this. So how about that I keep track of this book separately from the rest of my books, and all of the proceeds from this particular book go to charity. We'll donate it to one of the veterans charities, probably Mission 22.
I think that's a great idea.
And I'll just keep track of it, and every month or two, I'll just send them a money order for whatever the book's made.
Make the donation in the name of Darkwater Endeavors. That way, it can come from both of us and everybody that's.
I'll make it a donation. The Nightmare Hunter Nation, the Nightmare Nation. That way, all of us are, it's everybody, because we're all the Nightmare Nation.
I think that's a real good idea.
Because it's going to take us a bit to get this one done. I think that's what we should do. I think this book, we'll go ahead and put it into print, out on Kindle, and even in audio. And everybody has had their part in this process. And I think since it's a community effort, this would be a great way for us as a community to give back to both our veterans and first responders. I'm pretty happy with that idea. I think that's a good idea, and it looks like everybody agrees.
Yep.
Awesome. Arlen, hey brother, I'm right there with you, man. We got to give back to the veteran and first responder community because they've given us so much. Everybody, for next week, get your ideas together, because the rest of this chapter will probably be him healing as she sits with him by the fire and does the reading for him. But where he's going to learn more about these strange creatures that are plaguing the Roman fort. So next week we'll pick up right here where we left off. Hopefully I'll have those shots and stuff out of the way, and I'll be doing quite a bit better. Just a FYI, the first weekend in October, and I think the last weekend in October, we will not have a Saturday show because I'll be at a Bigfoot convention here in Springfield, followed by later in the month of October, I'll be at one in Ohio. Robbie will be there too. So
Yep.
those 2 Saturdays, there won't be a show. Arlen, he does, but he just lets you know how badly he was wounded. I mean, he doesn't just heal instantly. Broken bones he can set pretty fast, and minor wounds will heal, like that cut he had on his cheek at the shield wall. But big chunks of flesh torn loose from the shoulder and arms, yeah, that's going to take a minute to heal.
And two, he hasn't been immortal quite as long at this point as he was in the later books. So I would assume that the older he gets and the more,
thank you, Don,
that he probably would heal faster. The older he gets, the longer the curse has been set in.
Even if that's not the case, it's still you get your shoulder ripped open by a wolf. It's going to take a minute to heal. It's not like something that requires 2 or 3 stitches. There was probably laceration marks down to the bone.
Remember when they were in Canada and
got his neck broken?
The grenade or the explosion went off and it broke his neck, and he stood up and went. I mean, I would say
Mark was like, "What the hell?"
That's something that you could probably say is implied, that the longer he is alive and the curse in him, that certain things he can heal faster than he would. Like it's just an easier way to get your mind around. That is for me anyway. It's kind of like the older a vampire or a werewolf is, the more powerful they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I could see that being the case. I think that scene was really good. I liked how that came off. Appreciate everybody's input on the ideas. So come up with your ideas on the vision process, on how it'll happen. Is she going to stare into the flames? Is she going to mix something in a cauldron? How is this vision process going to take place? What is she going to see in the vision? We'll continue pick this up next week. Like I said, I'm really happy with the way this is turning out. What's that? Sorry, man.
She gonna say bubble, toil and trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Not gonna quote Shakespeare, I don't think. Toshi says, I can remember the one scene in Canada where he did the neck thing. Says, damn, that made my neck hurt for reading that for a few days.
Yep.
Well, folks, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us these last couple hours. Arlen, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thanks for all your input. Thanks for sharing the experience. And I'm really, really happy that we're doing this. This is it's a shared process. You guys get to enjoy the writing process, as well as see how we fix things as we write, and a lot of things are still going to have to be fixed through edits. Obviously, when we finish this manuscript, it's still going to have to go through a couple of rounds of edits and things like that. Here's the question, though: do you guys want to see that process, how it goes through edits, or because it's a pretty boring process, there's nothing really exciting about it? Or do you want us to just start another writing project and I can do the edits and the processing and get it all done and just release it, and you guys can see the final product? Thank you, Roxanne. So you guys be thinking about that. When we got a ways before we're done enough to call it. I mean, we're halfway through chapter 4. There's probably going to be 23, 24 chapters somewhere in that mix, and be probably 250, 300 pages, depending on what the final count or word count turns out. And we'll definitely get it from there. Really thrilled with how this is turning out. It's fun writing process. It's fun sharing that with you guys, and I really like that you guys get to see how these ideas come together. Because Robbie's process is a lot like mine. We just we take these ideas. We have an idea in mind, and what I try to do is let the characters behave naturally, and then let the characters guide me through the story. And in writing terms, some writers refer to that as being a pantser, or writing by the seat of your pants. So I am a pantser to a certain extent. I have an idea that I have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I know what I want to do. And sometimes the characters actually let me get there. But no plan survives contact with Margolin.
True.
Julie
Or Doc, for that
see
matter.
the whole process, or Doc for that matter, or Jed.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah. Doc and Jed together are almost as bad as Margolin by itself.
Those two are very Margolin-esque when you get them together, and then you throw Margolin into the mix, and things get crazy.
But since Doc and Jed are older, I guess technically they would be
They're the bad influence.
They would be the bad influences on Margolin.
Margolin doesn't need any help.
No,
What's the phrase I used to hear all the time? Lead me not into temptation. I can find it well enough on my own. That's Margolin. He should get that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, he'd be doing again for that.
Northwoods, you're absolutely right. Editing can be a pain in the butt. It really can. Especially when a lot of the stuff that you go through and edit is just grammar stuff. It's just fixing the wrong comma placement or right word, wrong place kind of thing. A lot of it is just very, very boring. Sometimes you'll have to go back and rewrite a paragraph or two or add in some details, but for the most part, it's just slogging through all the grammar issues.
Yeah, my first book, he let me go through the whole book, and he knew it was coming, but he didn't tell me how I had messed up. And he's like, "All right, now,
what did you learn?
When you do dialogue, it has to be its own thing. It has to be on there." So I had to go because I had written it just like, as we were talking about this before, I pretty much just wrote it in longhand, and the quotes were in quotation marks, but there was no like. They weren't separated off of paragraphs. I had to go back through that entire first book and fix all that. By the time I was done with it, I said, I will never, ever, ever make that mistake again. Because he's like you just said, what did you learn?
Writing is a continual learning process. I don't care if you've written 100 books or you've written one book. Every book should teach you some lessons. And I try to go into writing that with that approach. I try to learn something new with every new book, and I think I've done pretty well. But I've got a long way to go, and I know that. I admit that. I don't think I'm the next Stephen King or something like that, but I just want to be the next D.A. Roberts. I don't really have my sights set on being anyone but me, and I'll just keep writing, and hopefully the good Lord's willing, the creeks don't rise. As my mother used to say, I will continue to put out books for many years yet to come.
Well, we've got plenty of material.
Yes, we do.
We've got a pretty big sandbox between the two of us now.
Yeah, that is a fact. And it gets bigger all the time. And it'll get even bigger when I actually finally find the time to do the first Olympus Project book. Mm-hmm. I have another series in mind that's a spinoff of Codename Wild Hunt that I haven't even done yet.
Yep, and that's going to open up more ground for us, like you said.
And the guy in charge in Project Olympus. If you guys remember correctly from Dark Frontiers, Declan's cousin is reared in Kilgrave. Well, this guy's a Kilgrave. So I think you guys will like it. I've got to do a couple of short stories about this Kilgrave before I do the first Project Olympus book, because I've got some background on him I need to get out there before, so you understand who this guy is. Well, folks, I appreciate you guys so much hanging out with us. I hope you guys are enjoying this story as much as I am. I know I'm having a ball with this, and I'm probably going to keep Monday Mayhem going for a good long while. I'm thoroughly enjoying myself, and I think it's great because it helps inspire the creative process. You know, and writing should be fun. First and foremost, writing should always be fun. You should write the kind of books you enjoy. If you're going to write a story, you need to love that story, because if you don't, it'll show through. Writing should never be just a project, just work, because you know who loves working? I mean, some people do, but you know who's going to put their heart and soul into just a project that's work? Uh, I try to treat every novel like it's a child. I mean, I try to give it as much of my love and my heart as I can, and I think that shines through. And in cases where they've let people take over projects that they didn't love, like modern Star Trek. And I'm just gonna be honest, modern Star Trek, they put people in charge that didn't really care about what had come before, and they just did what they wanted to do, and it was not class, and wasn't the old Star Trek. It just didn't have the same feel. It's why I couldn't watch it. I mean, I'm not saying that it was unwatchable. I know there's people that enjoyed it. It just wasn't for me, because it just didn't feel like they gave a crap about what had gone on before, and that showed through. And same thing with Marvel. Marvel really kind of fell apart after Endgame. It's because instead of concentrating on telling good stories and loving the project, they put people with their own plans and their own ideas in charge, and it showed. That's why Marvel movies barely break even anymore. It's because they put people in charge of the project that don't love it, and that's something I try to show through. Robbie, you got any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said. I mean, if you don't care about what you're doing, and that's not just writing, that's anything. I mean, anything that you're gonna, just like doing this, stuff like this. If I didn't care about the laser engraved projects or the hats, and DA will tell you, I'll look at something I'll do. I'm like, God, I hate this. He's like, man, this looks great. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. Not gonna done this. Not gonna done. That's what we're talking about. Just and same thing with the books. I mean, I'm trying to put books out there. Number one, that I want to that I would want to read, and I hope they're books that y'all would want to read. And DA's the same way. That's something he's always taught me is write for yourself, because if you don't like the books you're writing, nobody else is going to. And that's kind of what he's talking about. It's not, if you don't enjoy it and you just look at, this is a job. I just got to put something on paper and get it out there. Then you're not going to put your whole heart into it, and it's not going to be anything that anybody's going to like. It's going to show through.
Yeah, exactly. So if any of you all are inspired to write by what we're doing here on Monday Mayhem, just keep that in mind. Write what you love. Write if you don't do write for anyone else, write for yourself. Write the story that you enjoy, that you want to tell, and people will respond to it. And I'm not saying you've got to rush out tomorrow and try to publish a book, but writing is a great way to relieve stress. It's a great way to share your vision. It's a great way to just express yourself. And even if you never plan to publish a word of it, keeping something like a journal can be very cathartic and can relieve a lot of stress. So just bear that in mind. If you ever thought you'd find yourself with putting pen to paper, just remember, write what you love, write what you know. Because if you don't know what you're talking about, it's going to show. And if you don't like what you write, you're not. It's going to read like a textbook. So just write for yourself. Write for the audience of you. Write for that audience of one. And when you feel like it's good enough, then you can share it with someone else and see what they think. And just write to enjoy. Write to release stress. Write to relieve tension. Just write and enjoy the process.
Yeah. And I know some people say it and think, "Oh, you're a machine. You're knocking these things out." But what y'all don't understand is I've had that. The idea of book one has been floating around in my head for what I say like 20 plus years, DA. Mm-hmm. So really a lot of especially the first two books of the Shadow Walker series, and really like DA and I've talked about the one that's about to come out, it's kind of like, if my original idea was one book, it would be book 1, part of book 2, and this book 5 that DA is working on now. That was the entire idea for my first book that I had. So I've kind of split all these up. So it's not like I'm really like just banging these books out like nobody's business for nothing. I've had this idea forever, and I've been working on it. It's like, DA and I were talking before we came on the show. I wanted to do this for a long time, but I wasn't ready. It'll happen when it's time for it to happen, but I wasn't ready. I couldn't have been the kind of, and I'm not saying that I'm a great writer or anything yet, but until I met him and learned what I learned, it would have been horrible if I'd have put something out. So, but still, put stuff on paper, because I put stuff. I actually had several spiral notebooks. I hadn't. I'd have to look for them and find them. That I started these stories 5-6 times years ago, and I would love to find them again and go back and look and see how horrible they look now compared to what it is now.
Trust me, I've got notebooks of crap I wrote back when I was 18, 19, and I'm just like, what was I thinking?
But it's like we were talking about that. Looking on the computer today, looking for something, and finding what I first sent you, and going, oh my God, what was I thinking sending that? Like I said, me right now sitting here would not have sent that to him the way it looked. But do something. You don't.
Yeah, writing is one of those skills that it gets better with practice. Some people are born with a natural talent for writing, and I could name a few that I think truly were. Most of the rest of us had to work at it. I've been practicing my skills since I was a kid, and I was in my 40s before I felt like I'd turned out something good enough to publish. So don't give up. I mean, just because you write something you don't think it's very good doesn't mean the next thing you write won't be.
Yep.
D-Cat says anything I write becomes a never-ending story because I can't end them. A good ending is tough to find. You've got to find that perfect ending, and that sometimes that's one of the hardest things to do. I've added like 3 chapters to a book because I wasn't sure how to end it yet. That's happened when I was writing Ragnarok. Anywho, it is getting late, and I have to get up buku early in the morning to go get needles in my back, which is gonna suck, but hopefully it helps. So we're gonna go ahead and wind things down. I'm gonna eat a bite and then probably turn in early. But appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Don't forget about the 22 a day foundation. We lose 22 officers a day, 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that's 22 too many. Check on your friends and family that are first responders. Let them know you think about them. Let them know you care, because you never know when your text or your phone call what kept them off the edge. Because 22 times a day the demons win. And let's get that number where back where it belongs. Let's get that number down to 0. It's something that plagues our veterans and plagues our first responders, but with help and people that care about them, we can get them through it. And we should reach out and take care of our friends and family that have put on a uniform and sacrificed their time, their lives, their mental health, all to keep us free and to keep us safe. So let them know you think about them. And if you see a grizzled old man on the street wearing a veteran cap, thank him for his service. Let them know that what they sacrificed was appreciated, and let them know just how much their service meant to us. Not enough guys hear that. Especially the Vietnam vets coming home. They got it worse than just about any other generation, but there's still a bunch of those old Vietnam vet guys walking around with their VFW hats on. And I always try to remember when I see one of those guys to shake their hand and thank them for their service. So Don, thank you, man. I hope the shots aren't as bad, but I've had them before and they suck mightily. And this will be the most I've ever gotten at one time. Not looking forward to it, but it is what it is. Hopefully it helps as much as they seem to think it will. Arlen, you were a Vietnam vet. Hats off to you, brother. Thank you much. And any of you who are first responders or veterans that are listening to this, thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you put on the line for this country, and especially thanks to those that paid the ultimate price. And we appreciate each and every one of you, and God bless each and every one of you for what you did for us. Northwood says the Vietnam vets were first in line to welcome us home after Desert Storm because they knew what it was like to come home without it. Yeah, I'm not surprised that the Vietnam vets were first in line. That does not surprise me at all. As I had 3 brothers, all served in Vietnam. My oldest brother, Danny, passed away a few years ago. He was a door gunner on a Huey, 101st Airborne. Then my brother Lee was in the Navy, and my brother Ronnie was a crew chief on a bomber in the Air Force. So I had 3 brothers over there, 1 on the ground and 2 offshore. Ronnie was a crew on a bomber that flew into North Vietnam to drop bombs.
My dad was in during Vietnam, but he never went over. He was stationed in Iceland or Greenland. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was in Greenland's the one that's really cold, right? And Iceland's not cold. Yeah, he was in Greenland. It
didn't surprise me.
Yeah, he was listening to or listening for Russian subs off the coast.
I was at a listening post. Mm-hmm. That's very, very boring job, but somebody's got to do it.
Yep, he did it.
My wife's dad was a Vietnam era vet too. Yep. He was actually in Germany during the war. He didn't go to Vietnam, but he was in Germany. He was a missile crewman. Don, I agree. Thank all you all vets for your service. Absolutely. Folks, don't forget to check out our affiliates. Check out Doc over at Dark Angel Medical. Don't forget to use discount code Cryptid20 for 20% off. Carry a med kit because times are spicy. Now more than ever, probably a good idea to have at least one on hand somewhere. We all know current events tell you exactly why it's a good idea to probably have a med kit on hand, especially a trauma kit. Check out the good folks at Scallywag Tactical. Don't forget to use discount code DA Roberts 10 for 10% off. And check out our newest sponsor, which is the good folks over at SigwoArms.com. Sigwo Arms, great group of guys, veteran-owned business. Just a great group of guys. They make fantastic products. And if you want to get your codename Wild Hunt official ARs, that's the place to see. Go to SigwoArms.com and use the discount code Bigfoot5 for 5% off your order. And believe me, that 5% adds up when you're talking about what most pews cost these days. They also produce ammo there too, so they're pretty reasonable on their ammo prices. So check them out. If you email them, if you contact them through the website, just tell Cody we sent you. And appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We appreciate everything you all do for us, and we sure appreciate spending time with you, and that you guys chose to spend time this evening with us. So folks, thank you guys so much again, and hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday night, but I may have to have everybody let y'all know that there might not be a show. It depends on how quickly I recover from these shots. I can't say with any certainty how long that'll take, because the last time I only had 2, and it took me a few days before I was really, hostile, agile, and mobile again, as the old saying goes. But hopefully these help a lot, and it eases everything up. So tentatively, I will say we're planning to have a show on Wednesday night if I'm up to it. But I should be fine by Saturday. But fingers crossed, and we'll see how things go. Northwoods, I do too. I take a med kit. I've got a couple of big ones in my car, but it's always a good one. Arlen said, Korea. You served in Korea? My Uncle Bill served in Korea. So did my Uncle Ed. My Uncle Ed, my dad, my Uncle Ray, and my Uncle Melvin all were in World War II. And my grandfather fought in World War One. I know you wouldn't think it'd be my grandfather, but it was. I'm the youngest of 11 kids. My dad was born in 1924. My mom was born in 1928. My grandfather, Ora, on my dad's side, he fought in World War One. And he was proud of his service. And every one of his sons fought in World War II. Just not in the same place. Dad was Army Air Corps, which later became the Air Force. And Uncle Melvin and Uncle Bob were both in the Army. Can't think of anything else I need to cover. Robbie? Oh, got to plug the books. Go ahead, Robbie. I'll let you plug the books.
You can find all of DA's books on his website, but you can find both of our books on Amazon.com. Just look up DA Roberts or Robbie Jed Rings. Check our books out. They are connected. DA's got 35 plus out right now.
Fixing to be another one.
Working
hopefully.
on 36. I've got 4 out. Number 5 is in edits right now, and I started number 6 today. Like I said, they're all connected, so go check them out. That's about all I got to say about that.
Alrighty then. Well, like we already talked about the 22 a day. So again, keep your friends and family and loved ones that are first responders or veterans in any capacity. Keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Check on them frequently and let them know you care. We're going to close her out with the other toast that we do on Monday nights, and we don't have to remove her hat for this one because it's not quite so solemn. It's a little more fun. But it's another Irish drinking toast. I love them. It says, "There are good ships and wood ships and ships that sail the sea. But the best ships are friendships, and may they always be." Slán Jama, thank you guys for being with us, and thank you for being part of the Nightmare Nation. Good night, everyone.
Slán Jama.
Plains, the winds are howling, saloon doors swinging, shadows growling. 3 lawmen stand tough as rawhide. Yeah, Doc DA, nothing can abide. Whiskey shots and poker faces, staring down the darkest spaces in this town where legends roam. These boys bring justice, sending evil home. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rides with wind and rains. Cryptid lawmen, a fearsome sight, standing tall against the endless night. Jed's a howler, claws of steel. Doc's a biter, makes the devil real. But DA's a shifty one, a shape-shifting soul. Can turn to anything, takes any form, takes control. Tonight the chupacabras come to town, sucking the life from all around. But these lawmen, they ain't afraid. They'll face the darkness unafraid. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rides with wind and rains. Cryptid lawmen, a fearsome sight, standing tall against the endless night. Bat wings flap, the air grows cold, a chill and trap. But these lawmen, they're ready to fight underneath the pale moonlight. Jed and Doc transform with a howl. DA shifts, becomes a night owl. Together they stand, a force so strong against the evil right in the road. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With UFC